Do you want to know how to play riffs like this? If your answer is yes, stick around because I'm about to show you how to play every single note of that riff that you just heard. Back in January, I went all the way to London to JTC Guitar just to film a learn to play for that song in particular, and I'm gonna play you the intro lesson from that song, from that learn to play. If you wanna learn and have me show you how I play every single part of that song, as well as having interactive tabs for the other songs like Oscillate and Pirouette, which feature Adam Nolly, Get Good, and Jack Gardner, head over to jtcguitar.com where you can grab the whole Kinetic EP pack. Before we get into it, I want to quickly mention that if you are in Australia and you're thinking about grabbing that JTC pack, hold off, because when I play these songs live next week on tour, all VIP ticket members will be grabbing a 30% off discount code for the Kinetic EP pack on JTC Guitar. Let's play the riff. So I guess this is like the first tricky riff of the song, and a good way to go about it is to just start slow not so that you build up your muscle memory, but more so that you kind of lock in the actual physicality of playing it in terms of what your right hand is doing, because it's a very dense riff in terms of like what you're doing with your right hand. So it just starts with an open chug, which is very typical. And those quick little doubles there. And again, you want it to be as muted as you can. So I typically like to mute in the middle of the fretboard. I imagine like the string on the guitar is like a rubber band, where if I was to snip it off at these points and spin it around, the point that it's like the most cylindrical is right in the middle. So if I stop it dead kind of here, I feel like maybe it's subconscious, but I feel like it's cleaner than if I was to do it up here or down here. There you can kind of hear there's like a woof woof kind of sound after it. So, and then you kind of get like a little double and then down on that fret there. Give it like a little bend. I don't really care about how far I bend it. Not too far, nothing crazy like that, but you want it to be a little bit weird. And even there, you bend the second one. So pick and then bend the second one. So, and even here, that's a little bit of a weird picking pattern, because you end the first part on an upstroke, and then you string skip, or not really string skip, but you kind of like alternate pick between the low string, the string below it, and the string above it again. So kind of like that. And again, there's like a little down pick before you land on the one for the next part. Kind of like that. Sometimes I do that where I go and start it on the upstroke. Sometimes I do it where I start on the upstroke and go down. It doesn't really matter. I guess like most of the time I do the upstroke. And this is a little bit of a... It's fast, but again, it's more about just like the actual coordination of doing it. It's not necessarily like that much of a finger exercise, because it's all on the same string. I tend to use my pinky to do it, but I guess if you want to be a bit smarter than me, you could probably just do that instead, like that. But I feel like it's like the motion of me moving my hand down onto the fretboard with this finger takes longer, just from the way that I physically play the guitar. So I feel like because my pinky's already there down onto the fretboard, it takes much less effort to lift it back off and then hit that next note before it, like that, as opposed to like there, it feels like I'm putting in way more effort to get there in time, as opposed to, and even here, kind of sliding into that. And again, that's just classic dissonance, right? But these don't ring out. And again, like I'm not aiming to bend it into oblivion, but just to give it like a little bit of something as you go out of it. Like that. And then this is like the little tapping lift. So it looks harder than it is, I think. It's very much a pattern, and this pattern gets used throughout this part of the song. It gets used through just before the breakdown, within the breakdown, and all you're really doing is you're kind of starting at this point, sliding up, sliding back down, and then pulling off, and then hammering on like that. So again, it's kind of like in the same fashion of the leads in this song, where it's like, but you're just doing it in rhythm. So, and then the tap, 24th, and just tapping off to 0. So 24, 0, 23, 0. And then again, hitting that kind of skip. And then even here, you're hitting, the 21st fret on the string below. You're hitting it, pulling off to 0, and then, see, this is a little bit weird because you're not tapping on the same string like you would be here. You're kind of going on the string below and then tapping on the string above. So getting used to that is a little bit weird, but like that. And then as I'm doing that tap, I guess because the next part is this really tricky, like this string skippy thing that's all the way down on the other side of the board. What I'm subconsciously doing is, as I'm going through that tapping lick and kind of finishing it off, you can see that as I finish off those last couple of notes, my hand ends up down here because I'm preempting the fact that I need to do that. Sometimes I hybrid pick it. You can hybrid pick it if it makes it easier for you. But most of the time I just go down and then back up again. Kind of like that, which is a little bit weird, but I guess the one way I can get away with it is because when I'm hitting this shape, there's no risk of me accidentally upstroking the string above it, because the underside of my index finger here that's fretting that note is, I guess, muting the string below it. So it's kind of like an octave, like, but it's just a dissonant one because just it's on a different string. So even there, that's a little bit weird going out of that. Just one thing to watch out for, because you start down, but then da 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 da. You're kind of always ending on the upstroke. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but once you kind of get used to it and play it a couple of times, it feels a little bit more natural. And then again, just repeating basically everything that we did from the start. So this is where we enter like the second variation of the riff. And then instead of hitting the open, you kind of hit this 0004, so that this note sneaks in there, and you kind of slide out from it. Sometimes it's hard to hear that in the context of the full mix, but it is more satisfying to do it that way, like that. And then when you're hitting this like harmonized section here, those are the notes. So again, trying to like keep your hands as steady as possible, trying to mute as much as you can with the backside of your palm between those sections there to kind of give it that staccato feel. My noise gate is pretty high, to be fair, and I definitely have it high when I'm playing this track for sure. And then jumping all the way back up here for that that note on that string. And then we kind of just hit these big power chords. This is a little bit weird because this is more of a feel thing going out of this section. So I kind of hit, I guess, like the octave and then back down to the low octave, kind of like that. And then you kind of pick the lower strings, or the higher strings, I should say. Kind of like that. And the same thing here. And then that's how the section ends, and it kind of fades out from that chord.